Welcome to the JH Motorsports DL501 0B5 clutch basket clutch assembly deep dive. We've already done a previous video with an overview on the whole DL501. This one's going to be more about just the clutch. So these transmissions are in the B8 S4-S5, the B8 RS5 4.2, and the C7 S6-S7 4.0T. The bulk of the components we have here today are 3.0T B8 S4-S5. Those have been around since 2010. There's a lot of dual pulley cars been beat on for a long time, so most of the cool broken stuff's from those cars. But keep in mind, these transmissions are 100% the same from the metallurgy of the basket, the cover, the case. You're just looking at gear ratio changes, software changes, and maybe a disc clutch count change in the way of the 4.0T having a couple extra. So this is an overview. You have your flywheel. We have the clutch installed with the cover, the splines poking out. The flywheel just goes into the splines. Here's the cover off of a clutch basket. So if you had a clutch basket or get the JHM R15, that's what you would get and send to us. And then we got some stuff further disassembled over here. So just going over how this works, think of this as your traditional manual transmission clutch. You have a flywheel. You have discs that are in the basket. They're just not one disc, there's just a lot. And then you have the basket, which would be like your pressure plate. So you really have the same three basic components in the modern century way. It's just computer controlled. So just like your older Audis, your older cars, if you want to hot rod them, you got to upgrade your clutches. You could sometimes break pressure plates, other things. We're seeing basically the same stuff now with these. Let's go for the first failure that you may see. If you have a flywheel fall apart, dual masses have been known to fall apart for a long time, a couple decades, namely the B6, B7, S4. If you Google, those ones get pretty nasty. They'll shake to the point of cracking the case. Haven't seen them with these, but dual masses are known to fail because they're super loose, they're wobbly, they're 100% to just quiet, and wait. So if you ever happen to hurt a flywheel and you think there's damage, worst case, you just put a new clutch in it and you're good to go. However, these splines are extremely hardened, so if something fell apart in here, you should be able to just file these splines and knock off the metal that came from the other part. By design, these splines are always going to be harder than the other component attached to it. Worst case, like I said, throw a new clutch in it, it just unbolts. We have another video for that, and you replace it. Next, I'm going to get into the details of the insides and some failures we've seen in the actual clutch. Now we're just going to look a little deeper into the clutch operation. You can actually see them work. You can air check them. Here's one upside down. This is actually the back side of the K1 piston. And here's the K1 piston sitting here and the K2 sitting here. If you watch me check them, you'll watch them move as I give them some air pressure. This is just simulating hydraulic fluid, so it's not going to work beautifully. So when the car is shifting, it's doing that. And this is normally colliding, that's why I'm not hitting it hard, that's normally colliding against here with pressure and there's a clip. I just needed to show you the inside. So then the K2 is actually going to bottom out and bite because it has the upper clip. We just had to get the cover off. Pardon that. That's all the car's doing, switching between the K1, K2. So that'd be on, off, on, off. And then here, there's no frictions in it. Same thing, you got your K1 out here. The piston on the K1 is actually these little fingertips, which actually can break and get damaged. So we'll get into that next. And then the K2 is a nice, clean, round donut piston, like a standard automatic transmission you've seen in the past. So now let's talk about failures. So if you ever open up your transpan, which is the DSG section, you got to remember the manual and the DSG are separate. We covered that in a separate video. So if anything breaks in the manual side, you're not going to see the metal. So gear problems, you won't see it in the pan itself. It'll be in the back section where the gear sensor module is. So these we're starting to see off and on. We started seeing them in 3.0Ts first because there's a lot of 3.0Ts out there. They've been around since 2010. A lot of dual pulley guys, sticky tires, beating the crud out of them for a long time. A lot of them over 100,000 miles now. Starting to see these fingers busted off, and those fingers are actually the piston. So when those are missing, you're gonna get uneven load. And that's what this happened here. You can see the uneven load of it having some fingers, missing some fingers, and burning up. So it's technically not getting full friction in this area and other areas. So it'll slip premature, and it's not even really worn out. I mean, these discs are blackened, but they're not worn out. They just got weird hot spots because some finger broke due to fatigue. Like I said, this is not normal. This is a lot of abuse, hundreds of launches, lots of fun. But if you ever drop your pan and you see metal, it's probably just your clutch basket. So pull that out, look at it, and you'll see those bad boys missing. They're like missing teeth in the back. So you'll see them missing. It should be obvious. The other thing you'll see in the pan sometimes is this little pyramid piece. This one doesn't have it. You'll see little pieces of those, and that's just from it really beating on the snap ring over time. You usually see both. So if you see those little pyramid pieces too, don't freak out. That's not your mech. That's none of your electronics, nothing weird. It usually all gets gathered in the big filter. It's generally your clutch basket. So I would pull the clutch basket if you're freaking out about metal in your pan. There's really not a lot to fail on these. They're not like a traditional automatic. And usually just a clutch is gonna fix it if you didn't have any other codes and you were just maybe having some slipping, or if you were doing a service and saw metal and then you're freaking out. Just see what it looks like. These are pistons, and then these are for the upper snap ring. This is not common with the DL501 versus the DQ250 has been a major one we've seen where it just completely destroys the whole top. They don't go anywhere when you start making serious power with those cars. This is just starting to be shown on the DL501. These things have been rather robust. Big cars, 10-second quarter miles, lots of launches. So most people won't see this. We just want you to understand that when you see this metal in there, don't freak out and think your transmission's junk. You probably just have a damaged basket from a lot of fun. These ones have been actually really robust based on the size and the power of the cars. So at that point, it would just be like an old school regular clutch. You get a new basket, which is like your pressure plate with some disc in it. And if you had an aftermarket, we could restuff it, whatever you need. So that is the bulk of what's going on with the clutch, how it works, and the failures we're starting to see after just a lot of fatigue and abuse. Thank you for watching.